Hairstylist, when does it end? When will you actually start to put yourself first so you can make more money, keep more money, and do it without feeling guilty? I'll tell you when, right mother effing now. Welcome to the Make That Money podcast with Nina Tulio, where we talk all things pricing, all things profit, and how to build your business with confidence. Hey, my friends, welcome back to the Make That Money podcast. We are going to talk about undercharging. You know, this is like, I live for talking about pricing and profit. And I talk about this and I bring these topics up a lot on my Instagram because I want you to understand the impact of undercharging. Now, I've talked about this before, but I'm going to make it really, really clear for you. So if you're answering yes to these 4 signs that you're undercharging, then we need to really make some changes in your business. So I'm going to just dive into it. I'm not even going to waste any time here, right? Your time is precious and valuable, and I want you to gain as much knowledge and insight as you can from these episodes, and I want you to literally take action in your business. So 4 signs you're undercharging. Number 1, you have to work over 40 hours a week just to cover your bills. If you have to work over 40 hours a week, I'm telling you right now, you're undercharging. And, you know, it's different if you want to work over 40 hours a week, although I don't suggest that for anyone. I really think the sweet spot is between 32 and 35 hours a week. But if you can't pay your bills working 32 to 35 hours a week, there's a pricing issue. So ask yourself, do I have to work over 40 hours a week to cover my business expenses? Number 2, you have a low profit margin. So now there are other reasons why you could have a low profit margin, and it could be a cash management or budgeting issue on the backside. But your prices drive your revenue, and they also, your profit comes from your revenue. So it's a driver of profit. So if you are making money and you're bringing in money, but you're having a hard time covering your expenses, meaning then you're going to have a low profit, it typically has to do with the fact that you're undercharging. One of the questions that I want to ask you, and I want you to really think about, is where did you get your prices from? You know, I talk about this a lot on Instagram. You know, there's so many variables and so many things that go into pricing your services. So if you got your prices from a salon that you worked at, where did they get their prices from? And when did they have increases? And what do their expenses look like versus yours? Are your expenses higher? And if they haven't had a price increase in 10 years or 5 years or 3 years, that's going to impact you. Now you're taking all of that baggage with you and you're just rolling it into your salon. And so low profit margin is really driven on low revenue. Low revenue is driven on undercharging. Another area and sign that you are undercharging is that you have to rely on your tips to cover your business expenses. Now, here's the thing, and I know there's a lot of controversy wrapped around tipping and tips these days. I don't price services with tips, and I don't price services with retail. Services are based solely on the 5 factors and I've stated them in other podcasts. It's in my free pricing class on my website. Check it out, ninatulio.com. And we don't put tips in there because I want your prices to reflect what you and how you want to live. You should be able to cover your bills. You should be able to pay yourself. You should be able to run your business and make the money and the profit that you want to make without tips and without retail. So if you find yourself having to dive into your tips and you need those tips, or you get upset when clients don't tip you, and listen, I know it's not fun. I've been on the other end of that. But when you're working from a space of confidence and understanding that I don't need these tips, your response to your client is different when they say, I'm not going to tip you, or should I tip you? Because you already know that your prices have your back. So if you have to rely on tips and you have to rely on retail, you're typically undercharging, or your prices are just not set up in the right way to allow you to cover your expenses and live the life that you want to live without including that. Um, I think it's so important to understand that, you know, pricing services is one of those things that we have been talking about for 100 million years. And it's still one of those things that is such a point of contention. And I'm trying to limit you from going on Facebook groups and looking what people are charging across the country, going to your stylist bestie who lives 13 towns over and asking what they're charging. And I'm not saying don't have conversations. Of course, you're going to have conversations. It's normal. But when we say, oh, you're charging that, that looks good for me, that's where you get yourself into trouble. That's why I'm laying all of this stuff out for you. So you don't have to rely on other people. You can really depend on yourself to know that you have your facts and data together. So you know that for your business and for your expenses and the time that you work and your product cost and everything is aligned with your target profit, it's going to make sense for your business. Okay, so working over 40 hours a week, low profit. We have low sales. So that's just a given. If you are grinding, if you're working your ass off and you are not seeing the revenue that you should be seeing in your business, typically you're undercharging. Hands down. You should not have to work so damn hard to bring in money, pay yourself, cover your bills. We typically have a pricing issue there. And alongside of that, in a lot of cases, especially in my Make That Money course with my students, there's a volume issue, meaning that, yes, prices are low because, sales are low because pricing is off, but also they're just not seeing the amount of clients that they need to see. So there is an effect here that kind of goes into it. It's just not one thing. We have to look at all of the areas. And so, yeah, we can get your prices right. And it's amazing if we know what your target price per minute is. We work toward that. But if you're supposed to be seeing 10 clients a week and you're only seeing 5, we have a volume issue, which we can also work on that too. Number 4, and last but not least, is if your product cost is more than 15% of your service price, you're typically undercharging. So what do I mean by that? If you're adding up all of your product cost, which you should be doing this anyway. How much do gloves cost per glove? How much does each foil cost? How much does it cost for an ounce of color? How much does it cost for an ounce of developer? This is all the work that we do in the course and it's a lot of work, but it pays off because now you add all of that up and you're like, okay, I'm just going to use this as an example. These are just numbers I'm throwing out. In order to do a root touch-up, it cost me $3.50. Now you know that. Right? So now what you would do, and I'm going to do this with you in real time. This is how you would calculate it. Let's just say that a root touch-up for you is a root touch-up and a blowout. Let's say it's $100. We'll just use that as an example. All you're going to do is you're going to times that number by 15%. And that's showing me that I am allotted $15 in product cost for that particular service. Now, touch-ups typically aren't where we have an issue unless they're so underpriced, because if we're doing this service for $60 and, at 15%, that would give me $9. I still may be okay, right? And that's just one indicator. Remember, we're talking about 4 indicators that you're undercharging. But typically where we run into this problem is with blonding services. Blonding services typically are the most undercharged because a lot of stylists and owners are not accounting for their product cost and they're undercharging. So if you want to look at what your product cost is, take the price of your service. So let's do another one, say $250 service times 0.15. That means that you're allotted $37.50 for that particular service. That includes all your scoops of lightener, all of your gloves, all of your toners and glosses, your back bar shampoo and conditioner. You have to know exactly how much everything costs you, right? So now, and you can use apps and things like Salon Scale that can, very much so help you in terms of like telling you what the product cost is going to be. we calculate all of this. I have a worksheet in my course that allows you to plug in your information, and then it will spit out your price per minute and also spit out your allotted product cost. But you're still going to have to add up your foils, your back bar shampoo and conditioner. You still need to know what it costs you per tube of color and per ounce. You should be doing all of your homework for this. So maybe this is your eye opener where you're like, you know what? I don't know that. And that's okay. That's why you're here. That's why you're listening to this. So you can say, oh shit, I really need to start figuring out what it cost me per scoop of lightener, per ounce of color. Gloves. What does it cost per glove? I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but that's what we have to do. You got to get now down to the nitty gritty to understand really what it looks like the costs are to run your business. And that's just the product side. You have rent. You have insurance. If you have assistants and associates and stylists, you have payroll. There's so many things that go into running a business. And I'm just, spouting off a few, but there's so many of them. So if any of these are sitting with you and you're like, oh my God, this is me, we've got to get your prices right. We really have to understand what your baseline price per minute, price per hour is. And we also have to understand what your target price per minute, price per hour is. So that's how we base and price your services, your new services. And in the course, I help bridge the gap between the baseline price per minute and the target price per minute. But in my free pricing class, you can literally just check it out and go in. It's going to go in a little bit deeper, and it's going to show you how to calculate all of these things. And I'm telling you, it's just going to start to make more sense. The more you listen to this shit, the more you're going to be like, okay, this is starting to make some damn sense. This is why I'm not making the money. This is why I'm not keeping the money, right? This is why I'm not making a profit. And again, there could be some spending issues and budgeting issues there on the back end too, which we have to look at. But let's get your prices all the way together so you can work less than 40 hours a week, so you can enjoy what you're doing and you don't feel, resentment when you're coming into your salon because you're so damn burned out and tired. And when you're doing a service and you're undercharging, do you think you're giving 100%? No, you're not. And I know because I lived it. I'm truly speaking from experience here. So dive in, do some of this homework, start to calculate your cost of product. If you need me, of course, you can slide into my DMs at Nina Tulio. Check out all of my resources at ninatulio.com. And if you want to leave a review, a 5-star review would be amazing. I would love if you would do that as well. Thank you so much for your love and support. I am here to serve you. So if you need me, you know where to find me, and I will see you next time.